friends and truth seekers. So my what I want to talk about today is going to probably cause a fair amount of consternation amongst some people, and others will be a bit more, shall we say, balanced with their response and do the wait and see, and others will agree. I think in this moment, though, there'll be fewer who will agree and will probably think I'm crazy and lost my mind, but not based on my life experience with premonitions and this work. Sorry, I'm not going to be apologetic about that at all, or compromise it in any particular way, because the truth is the truth. We've talked about premonitions before, and I need to share one in particular, but I have to preface it with experience that started back in 2016, or I had in 2016 with a friend, and it was at the time of the Democratic convention, and I was down in the States, and I was with a friend, Karen, and Karen's lovely, and is very much involved in this work and in the ways of healing. And I was down there, and I was doing some work down there, and we had an afternoon off in the heat of July. And so Karen was very much a Democrat at the time and wanted to watch the Democratic convention. And I said, sure, why not? Because I was sort of, I'm a Canadian, but I leaned more to the liberal side than obviously the conservative side at the time. And I still actually do, but unfortunately, that's another story about where the liberals have gone. Anyway, we're watching the convention, and Hillary Clinton's talking, and I thought, yeah, I wish there was somebody else. Just like this person is not who they say they are, but that's another issue altogether. And she's talking, and suddenly I heard very clearly in my left ear, which is my clairaudient ear. And before I heard what I'm about to say, I had those few moments. Anybody who knows how this work can happen, I suddenly found myself becoming very quiet within myself. I was suddenly detached from the moment around me. I wasn't emotionally attached to what was actually going on on the TV with Karen. I really didn't care what was being said. I found myself going very quiet and almost into a prayerful state. And that's always telling to me, because it's the sort of place I go to before I do a demonstration, a reading, healing, trance work, or anything to do with with development groups. And it's always the state I go to, because it's the state that I find that I'm the most receptive to spirit and to the influences of the spirit world and in the presence of God. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, in my left ear, like I've heard all my life, where my clairaudience is so correct and is always 100% correct, I heard very clearly, Trump will win the election. And it was quite a shock to me, because I wasn't a Trump fan either. It's sort of like, I was hoping there was somebody between those two somewhere in the world. And I sat there and I thought, I need to tell Karen, and I don't want to, because when I tell her, she's going to react, and it won't be a good reaction. So I sat with it for it felt for 2 or 3 minutes, but it was probably 45 seconds to a minute tops. And I finally turned to her and I said, Karen, I hate to tell you, but Trump is going to win the election. And that's exactly, and I said to her, it was so what Spirit told me, and I heard it very clairaudiently in my left ear, this is what's going to happen. And I was very confident with that at the time, because I had been doing a fair amount of spirit work. So I was in the flow, as we say. I was kind of elevated myself. I wasn't in my daily life, because I was, I wasn't distracted by anything else, and it just it came over me. And she reacted. One of the phrases she used was, all Americans can't be that stupid. We wouldn't dare vote for him. And on it went. And I looked at her and I said, no, Karen, it's going to happen. And he's going to win. And don't ask me why. Don't ask me the details. He's going to win. And I'm sure at that moment she was never going to invite me back there. was probably going to remove me from her list of friends at the time. Well, as it turned out, it all turned out exactly as it was said to us. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because I'm going to share with you my latest experience concerning the situation in America with the presidency. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be right because of the way it happened in my premonition, but I'm always willing to be wrong. I am. I'm prepared for those things. That's life has taught me that. But usually with this stuff it's pretty bang on. So November 13th, this past about a week or so ago, about 11 days ago now. Uh, I It was Saturday night, went to bed somewhere between Saturday night, Sunday mornings, and I think it was closer to Sunday morning. I had a dream, and I was in the Oval Office with President Trump, and we were standing together. I didn't say anything to him at the time, and I started to walk away from him. And as I did, I suddenly turned around to him and I looked at him and I said, I have to really admire you. I can't believe you're still here after everything they've done to you. And I continued to walk out. But as I was walking out, I was looking down and I noticed how beautiful the carpet was. It was this beautiful blue. So when I woke up, which I think was probably right after the dream, I got my phone out and I looked on Google and I typed into Google, what is the color of the rug in the Oval Office? And of course it came back blue. And I thought, okay, step one is done. We know that that was correct. What I felt in the dream was that he will be back as president. I don't know why. These are the things I can't tell you. But I'm expecting this to happen. Now, if I turn out to be wrong about him being in the office, then fine. However, there will be a changing of the guard, and I'm going to put 95% sure on this one, because it was so clean and clear and simple, and every premonition I've ever had has been clean, clear, and simple. Premonitions are never fussy, guys. They're very pure. The reason why I have confidence in this is because of how I prefaced it to you. I was trying to tell you, I wasn't a fan of Trump, so I'm not hoping he gets in, nor am I hoping he doesn't get in. It was a very pure experience. Not one that I was looking for, not one that I was hoping for, because whenever you do that, you can't possibly have a pure experience. It won't happen to you. In fact, the opposite will happen to you, and what you say will be total bunk, and it will all fall apart. God knows I've sat in enough circles where I've heard people in trance state say a whole bunch of stuff that seems to only validate what they think, particularly if you know their opinions about life and certain subjects. And then it all falls apart and none of it ever happens. It's never correct. And then, of course, we get the weeks and days of all the reasons why it didn't happen. Because the world wasn't ready yet, or it was some other reason. And there's always a reason. And that's tough, because when you set yourself up, you can set yourself up for failure. You really can set yourself up for failure. And I'm not trying to do that. And I'm not trying to take away from anybody else, but I am going to speak very honestly about my experiences, which include also sitting, receiving, and being in the presence of other people who aren't being consciously honest with themselves. They're being very much swayed by their own subconscious desires, and they don't even realize it. And this is what we have to be very careful of in this work. The conscious and subconscious can be very tricky when you're looking for truth about situations like this, when emotions are so high, when there's just when everyone's so polarized. It's very difficult to have truth and clarity. I want to share this with you. For many, many months now, I have been praying and asking the spirit world to show me the truth, regardless if I agree with it or not, and regardless if it means that I have to change my opinion and say that I was wrong. And that frees me up. It frees me up to be open to what's just there and the truth that spirit will bring. It's sort of like, I've had, so I was telling, I think I shared in the Premonition one before about my, the death of my mother and the dream I had when I was 8 years old and she died when I was 15, and it all happened in exact detail. To receive dreams and premonitions of that sort, there has to be something in you that's open to receiving the truth, no matter how brutal that truth is. Most people are not. Particularly right now, you talk to people and they're so entrenched in their opinion about what it is and what the truth is that they can't possibly see what the truth is, because it may require them to change their opinion or to loosen their grip on what they think the truth is, so that it's more encompassing, so that there's more, shall we say, black and white involved. That it's more about the gray than it is about the absolute. Because everybody has a role to play. And this is something to keep in mind. I'm not a fan of globalists. I'm not a fan of the one world order. I'm not a fan of Klaus Schwab. I don't trust that man as far as I could throw him. His book, The Great Reset, COVID-19, and I'm reading it, sounds very pretty and sounds very, yes, the world must go this way and this way only. There's a dangerous undertone in that book that most people, I don't think, are picking up. And we're not, because most people are just so busy and they're tired of COVID, and they just want it to go away, and somebody make it go away and somebody make things better, because I don't want to be responsible for myself and I don't want to have to look any further than they need to look. And unfortunately, that is what personal responsibility is about. That's what the agency of one's spirit is about, is that you must be personally responsible, so that if you don't look into something and things happen and you don't take action, it is your fault. It's my fault as well. I have to admit that in my own life. So for us as mediums, as truth seekers, there is such a deep psychological place that we have to understand about ourselves. The Greek phrase, know thyself, particularly when you're doing this work for spirit, is so prevalent, so deep, so powerful. And if you're not prepared to take that road, you're never really going to receive the truth. You're going to get half-truths and truths that beguile you, and ones that make you feel good because they validate your opinion where you are now. In this work as individuals, we can never seek to be validated about ourselves. Because if we do, we're not going to receive truth. We're only going to receive what it is we want to hear. That's a very difficult place to be. Really, because as a medium, if somebody comes to you and they sit down in front of you and you hear they're an alcoholic, but this person is presenting as a non-alcoholic, and they've lied to everybody, and yet they're drinking, but no one knows they're that good. But you receive that. What are you going to do? How are you going to approach that situation? Are you going to let your need to be liked override what the truth is in front of you? They've come to you. This is a private setting and a private conversation. You need to have this conversation with them, and you need to do it in the right way so that they don't feel that they're being attacked, but that the truth is being discussed, and that you're able to help them find a way to deal with it. Whether then they go to AA or they find other counselors, because most of us are not addiction counselors, and we have to know that. Receiving information often is a way for us to help somebody find the right people to go to. It's not just about us doing it, right? That's another thing that's called humility. So this work is, and receiving information like this is the same thing. There has to be something in us that understands that we are not always right, and that we're going to get stuff that we will disagree with that will be the truth, and it's going to knock our socks off. And that's when we know, I believe, that we are actually working with spirit. Because real truth will speak to anybody, anywhere, if we are open to it. And open means that we are prepared to receive, regardless of our opinions and beliefs. So regarding that dream with President Trump, for all of you who go running for your crosses in holy water when I say his name, and salt, he has a role to play. Maybe it has something to do with slowing down the globalists. I don't know. And making everybody rethink the way that we're being pushed, the way the story is being told, the narrative. And what the phrase told me, I can't believe you're still here after everything they've done to you. Well, obviously that's mainstream media. Mainstream media. And the lies. I'm not saying everything they've said is a lie, I don't know. But obviously that phrase tells me that a lot of what they did and a lot of what they said were lies. That's the only way it can mean. I'm not waving a Trump flag here, guys. But there's a reason, and there's a reason why in 2016 I also received that message, which, believe me, was not easy for me to receive. There was a lot of internal dialogue in me that went on when I heard that, and I wasn't too polite to spirit right away about it either. But I knew all of a sudden, as I was sitting with it, that it was the truth, and that there was a reason. You know, a very, very great medium that I knew, who's in spirit, my mentor, she never liked Hillary Clinton, not at all. Not from the first day she ever heard her speak. She said, that woman is not someone to ever be trusted. I felt the same way. It was like with certain mediums from the 1980s who I won't go into, but they became very famous. They went on all the programs, and then it all fell apart. It all went very, very badly for them. And my mentor at the time, Ruth, she asked her guide, she talked to God, and she said, look, why is it people can't see the truth? What is the truth? And her guide said to her, beautifully, in a very short phrase, if copper and gold are melted and mixed together, who can tell the difference? Brilliant. The answer was all there. A, that medium did have a gift. B, it had been twisted up with fame. The need to keep it going, right? The need to keep the name going so the books could sell, so everything else could happen. And this is the danger with this work. And I've seen this a few times with people who have become very famous, and they're more interested in keeping their career going than sticking to the truth of spirit. And that's not so much a judgment, because when you get in those positions, I can't imagine what it's like to somebody say, well, here's a book deal, here's a this deal, here's a that deal, we need CDs, we need this, and this from you. And, oh, by the way, here's the $40 million you're going to make. That's a very difficult place to be. This is an observation on my point, and it's a lesson for us all that we must be open to the experiences, the true experiences that Spirit will bring to us. And we only learn what the truth is by testing. I've had a lifetime of premonitions, from world events to the Iraq War to North Korea, all of it, to 9/11. And I've kept a lot of things to myself, partially because I was married and my beloved is in spirit now. And my job and my influence with my job and all the people I was in, I had to be somewhat careful, and I didn't want to, bring it all into work, because it shouldn't be brought into work if at all possible. But I'm not there now. I have a level of freedom now. And as I said to my friend Karen, as I was talking to her about making this video and what have you, from now on, I'm shooting from the hip. The truth will be out there. Anything I receive in this way with world events and various things are going to be told. And I'm not holding back anymore. But that's not up to me now. It's up to how Spirit will work with me now. Maybe I won't get that much now that way. I don't know. So I will talk about other things to do with Spirit. But from here on in, it's straight up. Whether you like it or not, whether you think you know more than me, if you do, go ahead. But every time I personally think I know something more than somebody else, I'm always proved wrong. Just a thought. Maybe keep that in mind. But I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Pray to be shown the truth, no matter what it is, and no matter how much you might have to change your opinion. Because the truth, it will set us all free. It's powerful. And it's more than just knowing about how you feel about things, or how you think you need to interact with life, or or the words you need to be called by, or the color of your hair or skin, or your genitalia. Those things are so, I'm sorry, unimportant. When real truth speaks to you, it's going to make all of that stuff seem so insignificant. And then you're going to wake up and realize you've been wasting time in your life. Don't waste it. It's precious, my friends. Take it from someone who knows. Okay? God bless. All the best to you.